Welcome to Inside the Skev, and I'm your host, Aaron Maslyansky. Today we are joined by Roger Knuth, the president and CEO of Lapin Systems. Lapin is Chicagoland's premier Macintosh and PC service, repair, and support provider. Roger launched Lapin out of his home in the mid-1990s after noticing a lack of proper Mac support in the Chicagoland area. By 2000, Lapin's new storefront had grown enough to become an anchor in Evanston in their small business community and a destination for all Mac users in the North Shore. And then in 2012, they opened up another location in Old Town, which is now their main location, and they have a new spot on Central Street. So we're going to learn all about that. And Roger, thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's great to see you. We were catching up a little bit here, and I used to work for a company that used your services all the time and set up new computers. Had a lot of troubleshooting back in the day. I think the computers have gotten a little bit better since the 2000s, but maybe not. You can tell me.
Well, it's just different. I mean, back in the day, back before the Mac OS was redone as Mac OS 10, that's when everything really changed, and that's over a decade ago. But before that, and of course in the PC world as well, you had a lot of issues like I can't print. Yeah. Or I can't connect to my modem, and that kind of stuff's pretty much all done and gone, and now we're into different kinds of issues but there's still plenty of issues, but they're just different. Now it's web browsing, wireless, all kinds of networking issues will persist.
Yeah.
So we've still got plenty to do.
Yeah, new and sophisticated issues to always learn.
Yeah, it's great fun.
Yeah. Well, I love Macs, and when I grew up when I was 13, I got a Gateway 2000 PC, and I really got to know computers really, really well. And I was big on PCs. I had a couple Dells. I had a desktop in college, and then I got a laptop. And I started working for this company after college, and the owner of the company's name's Tom Rozak, and he loved Macs, only used Macs. And I'm like, oh God, how am I going to do this? And I started using it, and I became converted. And I love Macs, and now I use Macs, and I have the iPhone. I'm totally bought in. But what brought you to them in the first place? Why were you interested in computers, and how did you get started?
Well, I'm a lot older than you are, and back in the day, and I mean seriously back in the day, I was just intrigued by the concept of even mini computers. The world of computing started with mainframes, and then in the 60s and 70s, there was a new concept of a computer that didn't fill a whole room. It was the size of a refrigerator, and those were mini computers. And DEC, or Digital Equipment Corporation, used to be one of the largest in that. And I got drafted. I'm a Vietnam-era veteran, and I fortunately did not go to Vietnam, and I was stationed at a research facility in Boston, which is fabulous, and I was working with DEC computers, and I was working for military physicians, and they were doing research, and so I was one of the gophers who was doing the work with the early computers, and so I gained a real interest in them at that time. And later on, we got to the very dawn of the personal computing era. And that was when you had names like Altair and Osborne were making the very first sort of box-sized computers that could be or were, I guess, personal computers. And this had been something that had never been predicted. Somebody predicted at the dawn of computing that 3 computers would be adequate to service all the needs of the Earth.
Oh my God.
Really, it's really true. And so anyway, right after that came the Apple I, and then very shortly thereafter the Apple II. And that was a very basic device that Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs had marketed. Woz was the technical guy, and Jobs was the marketing guy. And this required some work. I mean, it isn't like today where you just sit in front of it and it's all very finished and graphically perfect. This required actually knowing a little bit of programming languages and dealing with early versions of a word processing program, and a spreadsheet. Those were the very first things. And so that was really cool, and I actually I hid this from my parents. I paid $2,500 for an Apple II in 1978.
That was a lot.
Can you imagine? That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I loved it and worked with it extensively. And then ultimately, in 1984, the Macintosh was introduced. And so I, of course, went out and spent $2,500 on the first Macintosh, which I unfortunately do not have in my possession.
Oh, that would be nice if you had that.
They're starting to get valuable, yeah. But the Mac was a true personal computer in the sense that we know it now. I mean, it was a graphical user interface and a mouse, and it was the first one. And that's what really started to attract regular people to the concept of using computers. And the Mac was first big in the graphics community, graphic design community. And because Steve Jobs had seen that they needed to both create their work and print their work. And so that's why there was an early Apple laser printer. And it was a whole package that you wanted to get that would allow you to actually do professional quality work. And that changed everything. And then there were also home users, early adopters, and then it really just blew up from there.
Yeah. I mean, but back in the day, I remember it was growing and changing, and Steve Jobs left the company and he came back, and there was questions about whether or not it would survive. I just remember like the debates my friends would have about PCs and Macs probably early 90s, mid 90s.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And then it completely changed. What brought that change?
Well, Steve had been kicked out of the company, and it was because it was considered, I think that it was because his ideas were considered a little off the wall and so far out of the ballpark as far as these corporate types that were running the company at that time thought that he just was considered to be disruptive. And as we all know, he is a disruptor. God bless him. But at any rate, so by if I remember this correctly, I believe it was 1997, they were almost out of business. I mean, they were really hurting. And in 1998, I believe, they brought Steve Jobs back as a last-ditch effort. And he invented the iMac with Johnny Ive came on board. And Johnny famously designed the iMac, and it was unlike anything the world had ever seen, and it was just a sensation. And it was built on the Macintosh platform that was earlier seen in little ivory off-white boxes with little tiny monochrome screens. And this had graduated to what was, at that time, a pretty big display, and it just totally took the world by storm.
It really did. I remember them and all the different colors that they had, and it was like a tube TV.
That's right. Yeah, it was really great. And then at that point, they continued to improve the product. And then I got involved when I lost a corporate job. I was in a corporate marketing position, and there was a recession in 1994-95. And I had lost my position in a downsizing kind of thing, and I was like, I'm done with this corporate thing, because I'd been doing corporate jobs for a long time.
Yeah.
So what can I do? So I've been basically fixing my friends' computers for a long time. A lot of them had Macintoshes, and it was certainly my preferred platform. And so one day in 1995, I got an $18 in-column classified ad in the Evanston Review, which was the local paper at the time, saying that I could fix Macintoshes. And I was hopeful. And a lady called me, and I had my first appointment in February of 1995. And I went to her house, and I fixed her computer. It was amazing. And so it sort of went on from there, and there was a phase of doing that, advertising through the Evanston Review, and I moved from the classified section into buying the big ads throughout the book. And that really grew the business a lot. And not long after I started doing that, I had to hire my first employee, which is probably the biggest decision anybody ever makes.
Yeah.
But because I couldn't at the time believe that anybody else could care as much about a customer as I did in my company, And it turned out that the guy I hired did and could care as much, at least as much, and so that was very successful. And after the Evanston review kind of stuff, after that it went into a phase of the Yellow Pages. If you remember when the Yellow Pages were big.
I do.
And what was it? What was their name? That company it started with MC something.
McNally? No, it wasn't Red McNally.
But at any rate, it was like they were an evil company. They knew they had the hold on the market. It was a monopoly essentially for all practical purposes, and they were really evil. And their rates would go up year after year at an astounding rate. I remember I spent like $10,000 or $14,000 in the early 2000s on Yellow Page ads, and I thought, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But that expanded our reach a lot as well into the whole North Shore, and so it ultimately was worthwhile. But then after that, we went, and I'm compressing things pretty radically here, but then became the age of the internet, and once the World Wide Web was created and people started cruising the internet, the Yellow Pages just sort of went away. They just shriveled up, and who would put money into the Yellow Pages? Which is a weird statement because I still get a Yellow Pages, and I look through it, and there's lots of Yellow Page ads yet for different people, and I can't even believe it.
But it's kind of obsolete. I don't know who uses it.
I mean, it has to be just for you. I don't know. I can't imagine a young person using the Yellow Pages. They probably don't even know what it is.
Right. It's true.
But at the time, once upon a time, it was pretty important.
Now, when did you open up your storefront?
Well, I had a little office starting in 1997 on Florence. It was actually in a building owned by McKnight and Partners. They're contractors in Evanston.
Okay.
And after a couple of years, it was actually in December of 1999, we moved into the location we're best known for at 832 Dempster. And we ended up being there for almost 22 years. But I don't know, and it's been it was iconic. People knew where we were. It was a very high visibility location. It was great, but it wasn't a very efficient location for us because the interior was very cut up.
Yep.
So I was paying for square footage that I really couldn't use. And ultimately, when the lease came up in September of 2021, I decided not to renew it. And we thought, well, we have a big store downtown and at 2034 North Halsted, which is actually the second location down there. We had a different one. When you said in 2012, we did. We got a different one, but that was on Larrabee.
Okay.
And the neighborhood wasn't all that great there, but we did get, it was a good value, and we did get a location that was accessible to people downtown. So that did increase our business quite a bit. And we, a couple of years ago, moved to the Halsted location, and it's just a much nicer building, and it's very efficient for us, for all of our technicians to be working there. And it's an incredible neighborhood, and we're, if this helps anybody figure out where it is, it's 2 doors north of Cafe Bawariba, and it's between Armitage and Dickens. It's just a really great, lot of street level stuff going on all the time.
Walk-in traffic.
Oh yeah, it's great. We really love the location. We've got more than a number of our customers when we first moved in there told us that it was a real upgrade. So that was good to hear.
Yeah.
And so we've got that place going, rocking and rolling. But I thought I could get away with not having an Evanston location. And it turns out that the North Shore people are not having it.
No.
They don't want to go down to Lincoln Park. We thought because of the things we learned during the pandemic with remote support and pickup and delivery, all of which we do now, we could avoid having the expense of 2 locations. But we listened. The customers were saying that we're not going down there, and so we, a number of months ago, opened a new pickup and delivery location. It's just a depot. We don't do service work there, but I'm manning it, and we're open 9 to 12 Monday through Friday, and we're just experimenting with hours right now. That how many hours do we have to be open to be effective? But it seems to be working out so far, and people are coming from the North Shore again, because we get many thank yous and compliments on having a location again. But I don't think that we've promoted it enough so far. People don't know about it, so I've got to get better at that.
Well, that's what we're doing right here.
Yeah, right. Got to get it out there because Lapin's still around.
Yes.
And so we're doing our best to expand that. And then our latest initiative has been that for the last 4 or 5 months we've expanded into doing PC support, like Dells and Lenovo's and Acers, all those PC brands. We don't do warranty support like we do with Apple right now, but we'll work our way into that possibly. But there's a lot of out-of-warranty machines that need to be serviced by people who know what they're doing.
Why did you decide to go into the PCs?
Well, we sort of determined over time that Macs are absolutely by far the hardest computers to work on. And I'm talking mostly, but not completely, about laptops, because iMacs are very difficult to work on as well. And they've become increasingly so over the years, mostly due to miniaturization of components and assemblies. For instance, there are 50 screws involved in taking apart a MacBook Pro, some of which I honestly can barely see, the screws.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so tiny that you have to almost wear lenses in order to work on them. But, I mean, the young guys are good at doing that, but it is a very difficult task to work on a Macintosh. And it turns out that it's a lot easier to work on a PC. And so we're like, well, why are we just doing the Macintoshes then? So we decided to just expand it because it's not a technological leap for us. I mean, they're easy for us to fix.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to expand our market, just not rely on Apple products, even though Apple's doing very, very well as a company, not only in products that you think of when you think of Apple, which is today the iPhone and iPads, but really the number of Macintoshes manufactured every year has been going up quite substantially, and I believe that there's about 5 million a year worldwide. So it's not like the Mac is declining. It's actually Steve Jobs had this great analogy that was decades ago, where he said there will always be computers. There may be smaller devices, but you can view the computer almost like a truck, and it's doing a certain job, whereas the smaller devices like iPads or iPhones would be viewed in the same context more like cars. Mm-hmm. And they're lighter weight. They aren't as capable in doing most tasks that somebody who would want a computer has to do. And so I thought it was a useful metaphor, and it still holds.
Yeah.
So there's a place for computers, and certain people, a lot of people like them better than they do using an iPad, for instance, and are more comfortable with it. I don't necessarily want to say that it's just younger people that are that way too, because if you have some serious spreadsheets or design work or many different tasks, a computer is better for it.
I agree. I mean, I'm out on showing houses out and about all the time, and I've got my iPhone with me. And I have an iPad, but it's like when you want to look at a lot of different things, I like having a couple screens up in front of me and be able to use the keyboard and the mouse and everything else. And I just feel like I'm so much more efficient that way.
Yep, I agree totally.
Yeah, so they definitely are great use cases for it. But you're doing both of them, and you can do all the warranty work for Apple products. So why? So obviously when the Apple stores opened up, that probably changed some of the ballgame of, the service that you do in terms of how many people are coming to your store. But there are a lot of advantages to coming to you instead of just going to the Apple store, right?
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say this a little bit, but a lot of people come to us and say that they just don't want to deal with the Apple store. It's just too frenetic and too hard to deal with the lines and the rules and the multiple layers of people that you have to go through, and that we're a much more, and this is intentional, we're a much more laid back, calmer experience to deal with. We do that partly by not doing iPhone repair, because iPhone repair is a different business, and because we don't sell computers anymore, it's not viable to just fix iPads in terms of financial viability.
Yeah.
And so we don't sell phones, and obviously there's some profit margin in selling the iPhone itself, but there's just too much repair work that is not going to generate any revenue for us, and as a small company, we have to generate revenue to survive. And Apple has some advantages in that area given the scale. I mean, they're the world's largest company.
Yeah,
and
it's
so
pretty amazing.
They have the room to give some services away that we couldn't do, for instance. So the iPhone helps, not doing the iPhone helps us focus on the computer repair, which fewer and fewer people are doing competently in the Chicago area and probably elsewhere. And iPads are so modular, and it's a factory sealed assembly that is not meant to be repaired in the field, just like iPhones aren't really. And so if we take in an iPad, which we will do, we will simply send it to an Apple depot where it will be replaced. They don't repair iPads, they just replace them. So there's really no incentive for us to pursue that business. I mean, we'll do it, but there's really no great incentive, but we do it for our computer customers.
Let's take a quick break to hear from our supporters.
Moving day is a happy day, but how can you be sure all of your stuff will get to the new place in the same condition they left the old place? Upgrade your experience to first-class moving and storage. You'll get a team of professionals who treat all of your belongings with care and have the right tools to make the job go smoothly. They even offer a full packing service. Upgrade to first-class moving and storage. They're local and independently owned. For more info, visit the website at firstclassmovers.com. That's the number one, stclassmovers.com.
Hi, I'm Aaron Masliansky, longtime Skokie and Evanston resident, host of Inside the Skev, and local real estate expert. As a community connector and realtor with Dreamtown Realty in downtown Evanston, I know firsthand what makes the Skev such an amazing place to live. When I'm helping my clients buy and sell properties inside of the Skev or out, I'm doing it with the best technology and support team behind me at Dreamtown. During the pandemic, I've been able to help my clients seamlessly stay on track with their home search, from immersive 3D Matterport tours, professional photos, to virtual open houses. My clients can find their homes safely and comfortably, and even from their couch. When you're ready to make a move, know that I'll be here to help. You can always find out more about me at skevinston.com/real estate. Again, that's skevinston.com/real estate, or email me at aaron@skevinston.com. What do you think about the right to repair and the fact that Apple makes it so difficult to open up their devices and 50 screws on one MacBook?
Well, Apple is one of the companies that has been very vocally against right to repair. Just like a decade ago, the car companies were viciously against right to repair, and they lost that. They lost that suit, or whatever lawsuits were involved in that, and they have been forced to make equipment and manuals available to independent service repair operations. And so perhaps Apple saw the writing on the wall and became sort of early in the game to allow computers to be repaired by individual owners. They have a program which is just rolling out now to allow people to fix their own iPhones and their own Macs, if you want. Although I'm not quite sure actually that the Mac program is rolled out, but it's due to roll out soon if it isn't. And we've heard of horror stories where people just don't know what they're getting into, and attempting to take one of these things apart and fix it. And Apple has actually done an end run, in our opinion, on the right to repair game by charging very high prices for the parts. And you have to have special tools, and you have to rent special tools from Apple in order to be able to accomplish this. And in the end, there's just no benefit for people to try to do it. And I guess there's going to be a relatively small number of people who just like to tinker with things and take things apart, as I myself am one of those people. And I understand that, but they really should be cautious before getting involved with this because they're very hard to work on.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I've opened up MacBooks, older ones. I had a 2012 MacBook Pro, and I had different issues with it, and I wanted to fix, tinker around with it. And I used to do that with PCs that I had, and replacing hard drives or whatnot. But now the hard drives are so small and embedded onto the motherboard that you can't even do that if you felt like it, right?
In certain cases, particularly with Macs, absolutely, they do not use industry standard SSDs, solid-state drives. They do have essentially drives that are just a bunch of chips on a board, and you plug that in. And in the case of Apple, they can be proprietary now. So you can't go out and buy a Seagate version of that drive that'll fit into your Mac computer. And PCs have not followed this road at the rate that Apple has, and there are still discrete, recognizable hard drives in them. They might be, smaller, what are so-called laptop drives, 2.5-inch platter drives. But so you can upgrade using a third-party hard drive in a lot of PC laptops yet. But no, not with Apple. That ship sailed.
Yeah, ship has sailed. But I guess the benefit is that you don't have the same types of issues where there's compatibility and there might be software issues because of the type of products that you're connecting to it. I mean, what do you, this is a little bit more than just Lapin, but what do you think of the path that Apple has taken versus the path that Google has taken with their devices?
Well, Google sells a lot more devices than Apple does, but they generate much less margin. So Apple has always been a high price, high value, high margin game, and so they're also the richest company in the world. But people love it. They're beautiful. What's better than opening up a box from Apple?
Nothing.
That has some device in it. Nobody packages like Apple does. And it's just such a joy to open up any of their products or any of their, even like you get a new AC adapter. It's got that cute little plastic strip with the green end on it to take the plastic off so you can open the box. I just love it to death.
Their devices do last a really long time. I mean, I have a 2017 MacBook Pro, and I've been thinking maybe it's time to update that, but it still works great.
Well, they eventually fall off the horizon because Apple stops updating the operating system.
Right.
And right now, I would say a MacBook around 2010, 2011 is falling over the horizon.
Yeah.
But a 2012 to a 2015, they're beautiful laptops. And there's really no reason yet to get rid of them. They're just awesome. Apple went through a difficult period, actually, from 2016 through early 2020 with their laptops, where they made some decisions in terms of how many ports there were and what kind of ports there were.
And their keyboards.
Yeah, the butterfly keyboards. People just hated them.
Yeah.
And now, as of 2020, they started doing the Apple in-house made processors, the M1, the M1 Plus, the M2, and those processors are just very, very efficient. They run cooler than Intel processors. That allows them to have much higher battery life. And so the M1-based Apple processor machines are just fantastic. And they also brought things back that people were just demanding, that Apple just took away, things like the MagSafe power adapter.
Yeah, that's a great power adapter.
Why did they take that away? And then they did that touch bar thing rather than function keys. People hate that. They took away the SD card slot,
Yeah.
HDMI slot. They just didn't give you enough variety of ports to satisfy demand. And so they've been actively fixing that now. And so you can actually see Apple listening to the customer, because now the machines are they're really fabulous again.
What do you think their next devices are going to be? And do you think you'll service them?
Well, in terms of our ability to service?
Yeah, I mean, because it's like, do you think it'll be a more PC type of thing, or do you think it's just more integration of their software and computing power into other devices that we use on a daily basis, like the car and whatnot?
Well, Apple has always, their model has always been to control both the hardware and the software. And that's why they've been more stable as a general rule than PCs, because you've got Microsoft doing the Windows side of the equation for running the software that runs the machine, and then you've got your different hardware manufacturers building their own hardware and then putting that Windows software on it. And just, you can imagine why it would engender more problems and more issues that might arise, because there's a mismatch between what Microsoft is doing and Dell is doing, or something like that.
Right.
And Apple has always avoided that problem by controlling both sides, and I would certainly continue to see that happening. And the big question has always been, in the last number of years, what's going to happen with the Mac versus the iPad, because you can see them getting closer together in their functionality. I mean, a Mac today and for the last couple of years will run iOS programs that have been written for iPhone and iPad. So you can actually run those same programs on your Mac, but that you can't run Mac programs on an iPad or an iPhone. But why would you necessarily? Because they tend to be more workhorse programs, like we were talking about earlier, for more productivity or something like that, as opposed to gaming.
Yeah.
Which you would see much more on the iOS platforms.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, and people might say, well, what about like Microsoft Surface? That kind of combines the two for a PC, but it's almost better to just be able to have some of that functionality, but have the separate, device for that function, form and function.
Yeah, and the crux of that for Apple has been people asking them, when are you going to do a touchscreen on the Mac? When are you going to do a touchscreen on the Mac? And they're like, we're not doing a touchscreen on the Mac. Ever. But do we believe that? I don't know. But you still have I think the Steve Jobs basic principle of a truck versus car still is going to apply. So I'm not sure that I would expect to see one device that was created out of the Mac and iPad progenitors.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's going to happen.
It's pretty amazing the way that they've evolved all their products over the years since you started. And
oh, yeah.
It's one question I have for you. This is, about the name of your company. How did you come up with Lapin?
Well, we tell people that it's a family name, which it is. It's a little deeper than that, but I'd rather not go into it. But at any rate, Lapin is French for bunny. That's sort of a clue. And my wife and I really like bunnies. We have little bunnies all over our house in terms of, decorative kinds of things. She really loves them. And so it derives basically from that.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure. So if people want to learn more or get service, I mean, you just to recap, you service all Macs, PCs. If you have, do you do like monitors or things like that, or like what are all the things that people can bring in?
Well, if Apple, we do most Apple products, and that's because we're an authorized service provider. And that means that in the case of Apple, they have some pretty fancy displays, for instance, 5K high-res displays used by professionals, and they're very expensive, and so they're worth getting repaired. So people will bring those to us, or they'll bring all kinds of different Apple devices. But we just don't work on watches, the watch, the Apple Watch, or iPhones. But we will take in for replacement, like I said, iPads and a number of other types of things. But that's all because we're an authorized Apple service provider, and we're one of very, very few in the Chicago area anymore. And there used to be 5 or 6, and now there's basically 2 to 3, depending on what kind of market they're serving. We're the biggest and probably most well-known service provider at this point, and we do have a lot of customers from all over the place, including surrounding states even. In terms of PCs, we haven't done this long enough to have established authorized warranty service provider relationships with PC manufacturers, and we're not sure that we will, because oftentimes that means that you have to have a sales relationship with them, where I have to go out and sell 1,000 Lenovo laptops a year in order to be a service provider for them. So we don't think we have to do that, and that's different from our model because we're a pure service model. You don't see many service provider-only operations. It's usually service is an afterthought to a sales-driven organization.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is that service as an afterthought does not get the attention and the focus of management. And that's why we've always liked service as our centerpiece. And we used to be an Apple reseller, and we did sell Macs and other Apple products. And that was back in the early 2000s, before they did the stores. And
Yeah.
once the stores showed up, it was like end of game, because you really could not compete with an Apple store.
No, there's nothing like an Apple store.
To sell Apple products.
Yeah.
So that was an easy decision. And the Apple model has very much changed over time as well in the other direction, because at the beginning they had very good technicians in the stores when they first rolled out the stores. And that you could go there and you could give them a Mac, and they would fix that Mac on site. They would take it apart and do whatever was necessary, and they'd give it back to you. And over time, they stopped doing that, and their technician model changed from that of being a specialist in taking apart and repairing machines to a customer service person whose job really was to perhaps move the customer into buying a new machine rather than repairing the machine, which is a model that they learned from the Geek Squad and Best Buy, because that's their objective, is to move the customer into a new machine. So and then that devolved even further into not doing any repair on site, and all repairs are done at huge depots that Apple has around the country, and they just send the computers off to those depots, and they get them turned around there. And the reason that we still exist, in my opinion, is that first of all, there's a longer turnaround time on a computer that has to be sent somewhere in the U.S. and then fixed and then sent back. And secondly, and I think actually more importantly, people don't want their data going somewhere, and that they don't know they're going to get their data back, because Apple specifically has always said that we will not protect your data. We're not here to look after your data. We're here to fix your computer.
Yeah.
So don't expect any data on the computer when it comes back. And
How would they lose the data?
Well, they're just saying it's not a promise.
Yeah.
And if they had to replace a hard drive, which is one of your most common failure points, then you'd get a computer back with a brand new hard drive and nothing on it except an operating system, just like it came from the factory originally. So people don't want to get that back like that. And so we're very, very careful about maintaining the customer's data. It's the most precious part of the whole transaction for most people.
Absolutely.
And I cannot, just on this subject of data, I cannot understand why to this day people do not back up and protect their data. It's so easy, particularly on a Mac where you've got Time Machine built in, it's a software built in. All you do is plug in a hard drive when you get the Mac, and the Mac says, I see you plugged in a new hard drive. Do you want me to back up your computer using Time Machine? And you just say, yes, done. And people don't do that.
I mean, I remember back in the day when I had that Gateway 2000, I had a tape backup. And that was a pain in the butt.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Tape is terrible.
Yeah. But it's like it was so important, and now it's so easy.
Right. It is.
Or put things in the cloud. I mean, you offer cloud services too, don't you?
Yeah, we do. We do a lot of related services, trying to help the customers protect their data, like cloud backup. And we have a service also that monitors the deep down functions of the computer's health. We don't have access to your data, but we can ping your computer remotely, and we can tell with a diagnostic software whether something is going bad, like the hard drive. We can tell when the hard drive is going bad before it actually dies. And so that's a very useful service that people like. But Apple's Time Machine also allows you to easily recover whatever's only on the backup drive now, because you accidentally erased a file or something happened, and it's easy to recover that data back from that external hard drive that you're using for backing up. So I really can't stress enough that in terms of hard drive failure, even with SSDs, solid-state drives, which are much more reliable than traditional rotating disk drives, hard drive failure is simply a matter of when, not if. So
Right.
you really need to be backed up.
And with an SSD, it's just going to go.
Yeah, that's right. No warning. It's working, and then it's not working.
Right.
So, and sometimes we can get the data back. We're very good at getting data back off of a rotating disk hard drive, but it's harder to get data off of an SSD for that very reason, that they tend to just die electronically in a chip. And so it's just tougher to try to get that back.
Yeah. Well, you've been successful in helping. I had a hard drive years ago that I think it was my dad's, and it had pictures from different trips and things like that. And it was dead, and I brought it over, and you guys were successful in getting it back. So it's it's true.
And sometimes we can't. And then there is a world-renowned service that we use called Drive Savers. They're in Marin County, California, and they, if anybody can get it, it's them. They are a truly astonishing company and quite large now, and they're very expensive. So here's another incentive not to lose your data. I mean, it could cost $2,000 to get your hard drive recovered.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they might get the data. They have a pretty great track record of getting the data, and they have wonderful stories that they show on their website and such of things that have happened to computers, and they still were able to get the data back. But you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, if you just plug in, just
plug
back
in
it up.
and back it up.
Yeah, or put it in the cloud too.
And don't do this weekly or something like that. Even with a laptop, you should go home. You should set your laptop up on your desk and plug the backup drive into it again. It backs up every hour. It just backs up the files that have changed or are new. And as long as you take that one little step, you're going to be good.
Yeah, and your phone too.
Yeah, right.
Back that up to the cloud.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So if people want to learn more and be able to find you, where should they go?
Well, our main location is 2034 North Halsted in Chicago, as I said, and that's where all of our technicians are, and that's where we would be. Where if you want to talk to a tech, which is one of the things that has always differentiated us from some other providers also. I mean, we use actual technicians to talk to customers when they come in most of the time. I mean, we do have a young lady who's a service writer, and she can absolutely handle most people's needs when they come in. But if you need to talk to a tech about something, she'll go get one of the techs and you can talk to them. So if you feel that you're going to need some kind of interaction like that, you could go to Halsted. You can always call our phone number, which is we've got a unified phone number of 312-328-9945, which is answered and rings at the Halsted location. And they will talk to you about what your issues are, and if necessary, even write up a ticket on the spot. And you can then just drop into our Evanston location at 2934 Central where I will be at this point from 9 to 12, Monday through Friday. And I'll take it in. You don't have to go downtown first. I'm happy to see you even without a ticket. So
You still know what you're doing.
I just don't promise to be as facile with the technical aspects as I used to be now.
Yeah. Or lapin.com, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Lapin.com. Correct. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, you don't need to schedule an appointment with the Genius Bar in order to come speak with somebody?
No. You can come in anytime you want. Down there, we're open 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and 10 to 4 on Saturday.
That's great. Well, you provide a great service, and I'm so glad I got to speak with you. And I love having the computer talk. I'm so into the history of it, just like you are. Although you're probably more than me, but still, you're in that business. But I absolutely love it, and it was so good to catch up.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you for being here.